Oh, Altair with the primer for 53 months. Yo, thank you, Altair. Thank you so much, Altair. Thanks for stopping in. Thanks for being here. Thanks for the primer for 53 months. That's massive.
Many cases or a half ton of it. The hope was that the long-dead Pacific gray whale would be almost disintegrated by the blast, and that any small pieces still around after the explosion would be taken care of by seagulls and other scavengers. Indeed, the seagulls had been standing nearby all day. As everything was being made ready, we asked George Thornton, the highway engineer in charge of the project, for his final observation.
Well, I'm confident that it'll work. The only thing is we're not sure just exactly how much explosives it'll take to disintegrate this thing, so the scavengers, seagulls and crabs and whatnot can clean it up.
Is there any chance it might be more than a one-day job?
If there's any large chunks left, and we may have to do some other cleanup, possibly set another charge.
The dynamite was buried primarily on the leeward side of the big mammal, so as most of the remains would be blown toward the sea. About 75 bystanders, most of them residents who had first found the whale to be an object of curiosity before they tired of its smell, were moved back a quarter of a mile away. The sand dunes there were covered with...
So far, so good, Altair. Feels good to be doing a real stream. That was Florence in the late 60s, early 70s. Hell yeah, riding fence. With the fires in California, we had an emergency meeting for our sales team today. They expect 1,500% spike in demand for appliances and TVs. We told our biggest accounts, Amazon, Best Buy, Costco, Samsung, Target, Walmart, to put their orders in now. We said the prices now are not higher since Trump has not had his tariffs. Dude, that sounds like genius move, guess. That sounds like a genius business move, guess. Good for you guys. Dude, if I got that from you, I'd be like, oh, hell yeah, I'm order.
Spectators and landlubber newsmen, shortly to become land blubber newsmen, where the blast blasted blubber beyond all believable bounds.
Did you get a wow? Good? That was good.
All right, Fred, you can take your hands out of your ears. Here comes pieces of...
Our camera stopped rolling immediately after the blast. The humor of the entire situation suddenly gave way to a run for survival as huge chunks of whale blubber fell everywhere. Pieces of meat passed high over our heads while others were falling at our feet. The dunes were rapidly evacuated as spectators escaped both the falling debris and the overwhelming smell. A parked car over a quarter of a mile from the blast site was the target of one large chunk. The passenger compartment literally smashed. Fortunately, no human was hit as badly as the car. However, everyone on the scene was covered with small particles of dead whale. As for the success of the effort, well, the seagulls who were supposed to clean things up were nowhere in sight, either scared away by the explosion or kept away by the smell. That didn't really matter. The remaining chunks were of such a size that no respectable seagull would attempt to tackle anyway. As darkness began to set in, the highway crews were back on the beach burying the remains, including a large piece of the carcass which never left the blast site. It might be concluded that should a whale ever wash ashore in Lane County again, those in charge will not only remember what to do, they'll certainly remember what not to do.
Okay, all right. It absolutely raises a question for ChatGPT. How do we deal with massive whales that have washed ashore dead? Dealing with massive dead whales that wash ashore is a complex task involving careful planning and coordination. ChatGPT. Assessment and safety. Initial inspection. Marine biologists and environmental agencies assess the whale's condition. Public safety authorities secure the area to keep everybody away. Dude, both of those things were not done in that video. Both of those things violated. Decomposition and gas management. Puncturing the carcass. If the whale has been dead for some time, gas buildup may cause it to explode. Professionals vent the gases to prevent ruptures. Doesn't sound like that was done either. Removal options. Burial. If the beach is suitable, the whale can be buried in a deep pit above high tide. Towing out to sea. In some cases, the carcass is towed out to deep waters, allowing nature to take its course. This is only permitted if it won't pose navigation hazards. Rendering or landfill. The whale can be cut into manageable pieces and transported to a rendering facility or a landfill. This is labor intensive and requires specialized equipment. Whale cutting equipment? I gotta ask ChatGPT, what is this whale cutting equipment that they have? Composting. Wow. Permits. So you have to have a permit to do it. You have to have it from the U.S. Marine Mammal Protection Act. You have to look at environmental impact. Public communication. Noteworthy failures. Historical mishaps such as the infamous Oregon whale explosion of 1970 serve as lessons. In that case, officials used dynamite to remove a whale carcass, resulting in debris raining down on spectators. Dude, that's hilarious that ChatGPT actually nailed it just like that. What are examples of equipment used to cut up massive dead whales that wash ashore? Cutting up a massive dead whale is a challenging task requiring specialized equipment. Flensing knives, machetes, bone saws, chainsaws, reciprocating saws, circular saws, excavators, cranes, skid steers, loaders, hydraulic shears, blubber hooks, winches, decomposition gases, vending tools, PPE, tarps and nets, disinfectants and cleaning tools, flatbed trucks and trailers, barges and boats. That's hilarious. Holy cow, dude. Who had any... Dude, that sounds it's like $1 million to take care of a dead whale if it washes up, I bet.
In a statement, Romania's agency against organized crime, DICOT, said 6 people had been detained in total, both Romanians.
Conservative work, yeah. Whale cutting equipment. I swear that is a term Americans give. Yep.
And foreigners. He, of course, says that 30 of these girls say we've done nothing wrong, which, again, that's not actually super rare in sort of grooming cases. That was actually the original perspective of many of the girls who actually were groomed in Great Britain by the grooming gangs. 2 are the mothers of our children. 2 have never even been here to Romania. Asked repeatedly by the BBC about the allegations of the 15-year-old girl and underage persons, he walked away and refused to reply. Now, these are new and separate allegations from the old allegations. The anti-organized crime agency in Romania says the accused were grooming vulnerable people who were then housed in different locations and forced to produce material for online broadcast. One of the foreign men is accused of forcing a 17-year-old foreign citizen to perform acts in order to make online video content. He's said to have kept all the $1.5 million in profit. The statement does not name him. That same man is accused of repeatedly having relations with a girl who was 15 years old when they met. And actually, there's a fair bit of tape of the girl talking about when she met Andrew Tate, allegedly. And if that tape is in any way correct, and if his own statements on tape are in any way correct, she was underage at the time. Some of the other allegations from the new allegations that are being brought include, according to the actual case that's being brought, quote, he was hitting the victim on the head with one of his hands, right on the temple, not on the face, and with the other at the same time, he was choking the victim. Thus, an eye injury was not caused by blows to the head inflicted by the defendant, Andrew Tate, but was the result of immense pressure felt by the victim as a result of the strangulation. According to the victim, during the allegedly violent intercourse, she felt she was on the verge of death. This person provided the judicial authorities with photographs and messages relating to these injuries. Okay, these are pretty significant accusations. Now, maybe it's all lies. Maybe all of it is lies. But the problem is that he said a lot of things like this on tape. So we'll have to see how that goes. And again, it's not just trials.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing with Andrew Tate is like, on one hand, Andrew Tate is saying, hey, they've like accused me of all these horrific crimes, and I never did any of it. It's all a lie. And then on the other hand, we're like, oh, well, here's a videotape of you saying you were doing that, and your entire presence online and everything you teach is about how to do this, and you've made millions doing it. And that matches right up with the... Oh, no, that was all a joke. I was just joking about all that. Huh? What? Does that make any sense? Conservatives really shouldn't like Andrew Tate. No, of course not, guitar player. That's why we're anti-Andrew Tate. Even if the allegations are false, and the only thing that's true is like what he's actually done in making millions as a pornographer is true. Even then, that's no. Tate is lackey, the Russian mob he has used to launder tens of millions of dollars from his business. Oh, I haven't heard that one, guess, but I'd believe that in a second, dude. I've been to Romania. I've been to Moldova. I've been to Romania and Moldova. Those places are rough places where, like, beating people up and getting beat up is how you do business on a day-to-day basis, and crimes and threats of violence and violence is everyday, daily how you do business there. And so it's like, yeah, and the mob is huge, and dude, that's a rough place. It's like, of course, you don't become rich there without some pretty stuff going on. Jay Brown, what's up?
In Romania that are happening, there is also legal considerations in the UK. In March, both of the Tates were taken into custody in Romania on a new European arrest warrant issued by the British authorities. Those charges related to the arrest were made between 2012 and 2015 and include allegations of aggression. The Bedfordshire Police in England said at the time they were working with the authorities in Romania on an investigation into allegations of and human as well. So they're in a legal snafu. At the very least, the stuff that he has said himself on these matters is pretty terrible. Right? He is currently going on trial in Romania for both, and all while supposedly running for Prime Minister of Great Britain in order to stop radical Muslim grooming gangs. He is a Muslim. He's a self-stated Muslim, and according to his own statements, he was involved in grooming girls for. This again, if his own statements about himself are, I'm not saying it, he's saying it. Here's Andrew Tate talking about exploiting women.
I was all about trying to get paid. Like I used as a tool to make women love me so they'd obey me and live in my house to make me money. That's what I wanted. So I was a pimp in that sense.
Being kickboxer, playboy, pimp.
I'm happy with those labels so far.
But the majority of my money wasn't made in fighting. My money was actually made in the pimp game. We need to understand some basic concepts to the pimp game. Basic concepts to the realities between men and women.
Women need a man to do only. It's the same reason a woman need a man to do anything, because they're incompetent and they're very, very lazy. And they're stupid.
When you're pimping like me, it's a full-time job.
And Nathan Livingstone, who's kept tabs on this, has put together a lot of these videos that we're using right here. Now, Tate has then claimed in interviews with conservatives that he stopped his webcam business long ago, like super long. He stopped his webcam business technically in about 2022. Okay, it's not that long ago, as you may know. And apparently he stopped his webcam business when he found a new grift, the thing he calls Tate University or Hustlers University, which is effectively a multi-level marketing scheme that is designed to spread social media awareness of Andrew Tate. That's basically what it is. So CoffeeZilla, who does investigations into sort of these MLMs and pyramid schemes, he did an entire investigation into Tate and what Tate does with his operation. Here's him explaining.
Most people know the Tates from clips talking about the Matrix, politics, and feminism, but the two brothers have made almost all their money from something else. According to Tate, the way they got rich was webcams. Taking advantage of lonely men, they bragged about it.
And me and my brother, and eventually some staff I trained, would do all the talking. The girls were just famousers. We were taking their money, all of it.
And then they broke into male empowerment, which is ironic, teaching dating, manliness, and of course, money. You could join Hustlers University for $49 a month, where the best hustle was students reselling the course to their friends, which actually got the Tates quite popular because they encouraged the students to post their videos everywhere.
And he continues explaining exactly what Hustler University is. Again, he's making a lot of money off Hustler, not as much as he says he's making. And Andrew Tate at one point said that he was going to be the world's first trillionaire and suggested that he was making something like $110 million per year. But when you actually dig into how much money he is worth, he had suggested, for example, that he owned a chain of 15 casinos. The UK Guardian found that apparently not. It's tough to find out how much Tate's Romanian companies are actually worth. We can find tax returns for only one. Talisman Enterprises listed as a web portal business, which had 1.2 million pounds in debt. And so even many of the places he's declared are like his amazing castle in Italy. These are places that you can rent for like 800 pounds a night. In any case, here was CoffeeZilla explaining the Hustlers University grift of it.
The main project Tate keeps promising, which is real world token. All of those others, if you want to believe Tate, were just promotions.
I mean, I don't really need to watch all this, honestly, to kind of know or believe this, because like I've kind of done a lot of my own independent investigations into I've actually done my own independent investigation. You know what I was going to do, though? Is I was thinking about interrupting this little session we were having with a quick interjection here.
If it's Monday.
I hate the way they do that. It's so cringy. Oh, it's so cringy. All right, let me read chat. Jay Brown's in the house. He was used to sell drugs in Asia when he was in world-class kickboxers. I didn't know that one. It thought the reason Andrew Tate was able to be arrested in Romania was because Romania is the most politically corrupt country in Europe. Of course, yeah. Let's roll that back a bit. Not because he was in Romania to escape political prosecution. Yeah, exactly, conservative Irk. It's like, wait, so Andrew Tate is saying he's being arrested in Romania because Romania is politically corrupt? It's like, oh, actually, doesn't that show that the reason you were in Romania in the first place is because you're politically corrupt? Yeah, and now he's a Muslim. It's like, okay, there's another reason why he's wrong, because he's got a false religion. There you go. There was a woman involved briefly with my account of young Republicans who moved here with her husband from LA. We found out she was continuing to sell it. My understanding is she never cheated on her husband to do it, but that's still bad. Wow. That is bad. Tate is just utterly pathetic. Yeah, he really is. Tate is also an anti-Semite. Yeah, he's also a Jew hater. Yeah, Andrew Tate's also one of these Jew hater guys. He's really scum. He's absolute scum. And he gets away, like, the thing about it is like, Andrew Tate, he makes a good point every once in a while, especially when it comes to exercise and working out, for example. I think Andrew Tate's made some good points about working out before and how to good exercise. And he's made some good points about, what else has he made a good point about before? Like, he makes some decent points every once in a while about things, and kind of those things carry him into credibility when he's really not credible in any way, shape, or form because of his... I was saying the opposite, LCTRfan. I believe at times that he was in Romania was because specifically, whether you like it or not, he was politically persecuted. They managed to detain him without charging him for almost a year. I'm saying that was able to happen because he was in Romania. Oh, I thought you were saying that he was in Romania because it's a politically corrupt place and he's politically corrupt. So of course he's in Romania because he's a corrupt punk. Oh, okay. Wow. Seriously, guess. Yeah. No kidding. If he gets arrested, it's because he didn't pay the right officials. That's true. Maybe he, well, when you play in that game, you can be all buddy with the Bolsheviks and the communists, and then, boy, they turn around and 2 seconds later you're being executed. That's how it goes. He makes good points about the nature of men, but unfortunately he uses his understanding to exploit them. Right.
Officials warn that extreme and dangerous weather conditions could further escalate the wildfire crisis in Los Angeles in what could be one of the most expensive and destructive natural disasters in U.S. history. Plus, Washington braces for a week of contentious confirmation hearings for President-elect Trump's top cabinet picks, starting with a make-or-break moment for Pete Hegseth, Trump's pick to lead the Pentagon. And President Biden says America is stronger and our rivals are weaker in his final foreign policy address as negotiators appear to make new progress in the rush to secure a Gaza ceasefire and hostage deal. Hi there and welcome to Meet the Press Now. I'm Ryan Nobles on a pivotal day in the efforts to continue.
What a joke. This is just such bad stuff. Let's see what Ben Shapiro's coverage of the wildfires was.
Meanwhile, the news continues apace. The wildfire threat in Los Angeles
what I wanted to
very
do,
high. The death count.
What I wanted to do is let's check Wall Street Journal. Let's check some print media. We've been going 45 minutes here with Goldman creates new group to fuel financing ambitions. Wall Street Giants' new group will capitalize on a private credit surge and anticipated private equity deal boom. Private equity deal boom. Dude, this is crazy. Goldman Sachs has ambitions to be one of the biggest players in the increasingly competitive world of financing. Its new structure aims to make that clearer. The Wall Street Giant said Monday it's combining 3 groups in its global banking and markets division that work on finding or facilitating various types of financing deals. Goldman plans to call the new group the Capital Solutions Group. It'll include financial sponsors team that provides investment banking services to private equity firms. The Global Financing Group that finds investors to provide capital for deals. And a big chunk of what the company calls its FICC financing team that makes loans tied to collateral to other lenders, including private credit funds. So basically, that's just that's investment banking. All they did is just described investment banking. Thank you. So Goldman Sachs is going to be an investment bank. Whoa, breaking news, guys. Breaking news. Goldman Sachs is an investment bank. Oh, man. Journey into the Whirlwind by Eugenia Ginsburg is a great introduction to what leftists do to their own. I haven't read that one. After the nonsense that got confirmed to Biden's cabinet, we better see no Republicans vote against Trump's picks. Altair, that's such a good point, Altair. I'm going to try to go virus on X by stealing it and tweeting it out as my own. It's also creating a team within Capital Solutions that will go virus. Thank you, Panzer. We're pulling for it. We're pulling for it. Can you imagine if that happened one time? If I literally copy and pasted like somebody's Twitch chat into like my tweet and like it ended up getting like 1 million likes or something? Can you imagine that? I am not Jewish. I am not Jewish conservative. I might actually be like ethnically some Jewish. I don't know. But no. Mostly ethnically, I think mostly I am Irish. I think I've got like some English or Scot in me, or and then German and Swiss and who the heck knows, dude. That's how I describe myself. The combined group will remain part of global banking and markets, one of Goldman's 2 major divisions, alongside asset and wealth management. Oh, and I forgot, I think I've got some Polish. I'm 100% Polish. Nice, Panzer. That's awesome. Actually, it's funny. I was about to say, I think I've got some Polish in me, too. Wall Street Journal first reported it. Okay, whatever, dude. It's like, I don't know why I guess that's just, I guess this is a big story out of Goldman Sachs because it just kind of shows, they're the ones that actually know what's happening, and they're anticipating a massive, massive kind of economic boom. LA fire response gives new ammunition to Mayor Karen Bass's arch rival. Rick Caruso, the billionaire real estate developer who lost the mayoral race to Bass, now leads the charge against her. Dude, Rick Caruso obviously should have won. I can't believe these morons in LA voted for Karen Bass over a guy that wanted to fix the fire department. The liberals in LA, leftists in LA, voted for Karen Bass instead of a billionaire that wanted to fix the fire department. Unbelievable. Karen and the fire chief are barely holding their... Did they do a press conference today? You know what? Let me check Forbes breaking news. Here we go. Oh, man, DeSantis spoke today. Hell yeah, brother. Let's get that DeSantis clip going.
Obstacles that the federal government has put in our way across a wide variety of issues. As they've borrowed and spent and driven costs up higher, we've acted to reduce burdens on Floridians, whether it's tax relief, toll relief, you name it. As they tried to throw roadblocks into freedom, we worked hard and we overcame it. And of course, the issue that was maybe the most significant over the last 4 years, the fight against illegal immigration, as the Biden administration was allowing our borders to be overrun, have millions and millions of people coming to the country illegally. Florida led the way in enacting strong policies to deter and discourage and hold accountable people that came to this country illegally. We are now coming up on the next presidential inauguration. And when President Trump takes office again on January 20th, we are going to see a sea change in policies, particularly with respect to the border and illegal immigration. And this is an issue that has been festering in this country for many, many decades. Although the first Trump administration was much more successful than others have been, this is the time to get it right once and
By the way, if anybody wants to add a quote, they can. It just has to be a mod that does it.
for all.
You can, but you can tell me or a mod, or we can add it if you guys like one.
To help facilitate these policies that will benefit Floridians and benefit the American people. We've been working with the transition team. I've been speaking with the president. We had the governors down at Mar-a-Lago. There's going to be some ambitious policy changes that are going to be instituted on day one, particularly with respect to illegal immigration and major executive orders that are going to unwind the bad policies of the Biden administration, but then also provide a level of empowerment for states and local governments to help facilitate the policies against illegal immigration. And so the question for the state of Florida is, we're not a sanctuary state. We banned sanctuary cities my first year as governor, but we have a responsibility to
Oh, dude, you know what I just realized? Montana's having the state of the state. Montana's having the state of the state. I wonder if it's live anywhere on YouTube right now. The Montana governor's giving the state of the state live in 4 minutes. Wow. Here it is, boys, live from the Montana State Capitol.
Are they getting anything?
Are they ever gonna, I wonder if they're ever gonna fix the audio. Oh, wait. Oh, this is 2023. I thought this was live. What the frick? Oh, this is... Let's see, Montana... I think I might have to be in. I think I have to might be watching on Facebook or something. Or I thought the governor's office was going to actually stream it too.
6, serving the Bozeman community since 1990.
Okay. 1 minute remaining. Oh, I wonder if it doesn't go until... Well, all right, it's up. Oh, here it is.
Montana PBS reports the governor's State of the State address. Production support was provided by the Greater Montana Foundation and by viewers like you who are friends of Montana PBS. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Montana PBS and our special coverage of the governor's State of the State address. I'm John Twiggs. We'd also like to welcome listeners joining us on Montana Public Radio and Yellowstone Public Radio. Let's get you to the state capitol inside the House chambers where a joint session of the 69th Montana Legislature is convening. They're wrapping up the pre-speech ceremonies there. As you can see, the invocation is just being completed. In just a few minutes, Governor Gianforte will be formally invited into the chamber to deliver his third State of the State address. It's all part of our coverage tonight that includes the governor's speech in its entirety. We expect that to last about an hour. That will be followed by the Democrats' response to be delivered by Senate Minority Whip Shane Morageau, who represents Missoula. And Montana PBS's Anna Rao will also have interviews with key legislators about the upcoming session and important issues there. School of Journalism, Lee Banville joins us. And Lee, great to have you. We've been covering this event for 20 years, and I think this is the earliest in terms of in the month of January, the earliest that we had a governor request to give the address at this point in the month. Do you think there's a particular advantage to that?
Well, I mean, I think, well, we'll find out, I guess. But, I mean, I think the big thing is, you know, by moving it earlier, you know, the legislature's only about a week into business, right? And so they haven't had a lot of time to dig into some of these issues, whether it's how to tackle housing, how to tackle...
They would have if there wasn't a Democrat takeover of the Senate, improper.
He does have the opportunity to kind of shape
uninvited
the parameters of the debate a little bit. And so, you know, it's clear that the governor probably wants to be involved in the conversation more rather than sort of sitting back and seeing what the legislature comes up with. So there probably is a little bit of strategy to it, but maybe also, I don't know, maybe we had a conflict later in the month.
We're a couple of weeks earlier than normal, we will say that. So
wow, so that really just shows you Gianforte is trying to take over the legislature. Wow. Ride and Fence, thank you. Yup, it's that time. Thank you, Ride and Fence.
Sort of like
67 months.
Probably a lot of what people tend to call kitchen table issues. So things like, I'm sure we're going to hear about housing. We're going to hear about property taxes. We're probably going to talk about education. You know, the things that really a lot of people do spend a lot of their time worried about or thinking about. There will probably also be priorities that the governor has really emphasized. So it could be things like, you know, sort of law and order issues. We might see
Ride and Fence, 67 months. Thank you so much, Ride and Fence. Thank you for being here, too.
Or successes that he's seen from his first term. So, you know, I think we'll see a lot in there. And then he'll also be trying to sort of set the agenda for, you know, what his focus is going to be as he goes into this, not only this session, but these next 4 years.
A lot to listen for. The governor, as we await him to enter the chamber, he's going to come in. As you can see right there, he has now entered the chamber and is up to the rostrum and greeting the leadership, the legislative leadership there, as we are close to him delivering. And let's listen in the 2025 Governor's State of the State address.
State of Montana, the Honorable Greg Gianforte.
There's my friend. There's my friend.
Thank you.
There's my friends. There's my friend.
Please be seated. Mr. Speaker, Mr. President, members of the 69th Legislature, Lieutenant Governor, statewide officials.
Doesn't look like Gianforte's been hitting the tanning bed very much lately, does it?
Members of our cabinet.
Looks like a Montanan in winter.
Lady of Montana, my dear wife, Susan. And finally, my fellow Montanans. Just last week, we gathered on the front steps of the Capitol to commit to 4 more years of strong, conservative leadership here in Helena. As I did last week, I stand before you today with a message of hope and prosperity and an unwavering commitment to serve Montanans. As we gather in this chamber, we're reminded that America lives in Montana, in our vast landscapes, our thriving communities, and most importantly, in the hearts of our people. Over the last 4 years, we've made great strides together, but our work is far from over. And I'm filled with optimism, not only for our state, but for our nation. In just 1 week, President Donald J. Trump will return to the White House after...
First applause line is about Trump. The very first applause line is about Trump.
Victory in November.
No other applauses except for Trump.
Thursday, I had the great honor of having dinner with President Trump at Mar-a-Lago. And I can tell you, he is ready to get to work. And I'm eager to work with President Trump and members of his cabinet, many of whom I've worked alongside in Congress and as your governor, to make America affordable, safe, prosperous, and great again. Our vision of Montana remains simple and steadfast. Create more good-paying jobs. Open the doors of greater opportunity for all Montanans to achieve the American dream and to protect our Montana way of life. It's a conservative vision centered on family and community. We stand at a pivotal moment in our state's history. The choices we make today will shape Montana for our children and our grandchildren. For the first 2 decades of this century, state government hasn't done well by them. As I said before, and I'll say again, Montana's biggest exports were beef, grain, our kids, and our grandkids. They left Montana for greater opportunities elsewhere, for better jobs with higher pay. We're reversing that trend, improving educational opportunities, and creating an environment where job creators and innovators can thrive, set up shop, grow, and create good-paying jobs right here in Montana. At its core, our vision is about freedom, opportunity, and community. We believe in the unsurpassed spirit of Montanans, our resilience, our work ethic, and our deep connection to this land that we love. Our policies aim to unleash that spirit, to create an environment where every Montanan can pursue their dreams, prosper, and build a wonderful life, where families thrive, where our communities
Lots
are
of
safe,
fluff here. Lots of fluff
where
here.
our public lands
Safe.
are
He
protected
said safe.
for future
We're going to be
generations,
safe like 3 times. That's fluff.
where opportunities abound. And a child growing up in one of our smallest towns has the same chance to succeed as one in our largest city. We're building a foundation for greater opportunity, for long-term prosperity. One
Again,
that
he
can
said prosperity and
weather the
opportunity
storms
like
and emerge
3
stronger.
times, 4 times.
We're building a foundation
What's he even saying?
that emphasizes self-sufficiency over government dependency. Over the last 4 years, we've boosted self-sufficiency. There is dignity in work.
Now, I agree with all
Whether
this.
you're
Now, these
serving
are some good
customers,
points.
Building homes, working the land, or working behind a desk. We must
Yeah,
encourage
this is really. These are
work
really good points.
and the dignity that comes with it. Now, We do have an obligation to support and care for the most vulnerable amongst us. And to those who need temporary help to get back on their feet, we have an obligation to make sure that help that we provide is a hand up, not a handout. I'm proud of the successful work of our cabinet to make government more responsive, to increase efficiency, and to emphasize self-sufficiency over government dependency.
Keyword temporary. Correct, Spencer. Yep.
To prosperity and self-sufficiency, we're building a firm foundation on our shared commitment to fiscal responsibility. But it's not just about balancing the books. It's about respecting all Montanans who work hard to earn a living. It's about ensuring government remains a servant of the people, not their master. And Montanans endorse that vision loud and clear. They want leadership that delivers results. And that's exactly what we've done. And I'm proud to say, thanks to our shared efforts and successes over the last 4 years, the state of our state is strong.
Second applause line of the night. First one was Trump. The second one is the cliched line, "State of the state is strong."
Our economy is growing. Over the last 4 years, wages here have grown at the second fastest rate in the country. Montanans are finding new opportunities with record job growth.
I agree, conservative Irk. Like, we need some policies here. What is he talking about? We need some actual ideas. Like, what are you like doing?
This success did not just happen by accident. This success is the result of our commitment to creating an environment where hardworking Montanans prosper and businesses flourish. And we've done all this despite strong national headwinds from failed leadership in Washington. Failed leadership that's driven up the cost of living throughout our nation. To be sure, Americans have struggled with higher prices.
Those legislators are like talking, spilling the tea.
In every corner of the state. They've had to rework their budgets to make ends meet. But Washington, D.C. has not. Joe Biden and the members of Congress have not tightened their belts. The federal government does not live within its means. As a result, they're imposing a crushing national debt on the backs of our kids and our grandkids. In contrast, we've been fiscally responsible, enacting conservative, balanced budgets. Over the last 4 years, we've cut income taxes for Montanans at every income level, held the line on new spending, kept spending under inflation, and even paid off all of our state debt. And because of our conservative budgets, Montana has a surplus again. Our budget invests part of that surplus into our current and future needs.
I hate it when politicians say invest. The government spending is not an investment. Gianforte knows better too.
It does not grow the size of state government. Again, this is one-time only funding invested today on a one-time only basis for future generations. And while we've been fiscally responsible, the reality is that the nationwide affordability crisis has harmed hardworking Montanans. To help Montanans navigate the affordability crisis, we propose the largest income tax cut in state history so they can keep more of their money. I've heard from many of you that this is a priority. Montanans should keep more of what they earn.
Agreed, guitar player.
And that we shouldn't tax work more than we need to. Since 2021, we've lowered the income tax rate most Montanans pay.
Oh, shoot. Frick.
We should go farther. We should reduce the income tax rate from 5.9% to 4.9%, providing tax relief to workers and small business owners alike.
Sorry, I screwed that up.
And that's why we should expand the earned income tax credit for hardworking lower and middle income Montanans as well. Let me share with you why this is so important.
I wanted to go back and see what exactly he was talking about with his one-time
It
investment.
makes a real difference for folks like Bill Miles from Kalispell, who's with us here tonight. Bill served in the U.S.
Thank you,
Air
thank
Force
you, Eric. I'll put
during
that
the
up
Gulf
right
War.
away.
Despite the challenges of a service-related disability, Bill's belief in America and the American dream remains strong. Bill started Cowboy Country Painting and Remodel in 1997. For nearly 30 years, Bill's worked hard and supported his fellow veterans as a junior vice commander of his local VFW. Our income tax cuts have helped Bill, other small business owners, and Montana taxpayers, and we need to do more to support them. Bill joins us here tonight even after his 27th surgery last week. When we asked Bill if he could join us, we didn't know about the surgery, and he refused to say no. In fact, he was eager to come because this is so important to him. Please join me in thanking Bill for joining us here tonight. Bill?
Austin Knutsen's face in the bottom right of the camera. Wow. Cool. That's impressive.
Thank you, Bill, for your service, and thank you for being here. Friends, our proposed tax cut provides more than $850 million in permanent relief, a new record tax cut that benefits Montanans at every income level. That's $850 million that will remain in the pockets of Montanans.
Third applause line of 850 million, and it's not even a full applause. We could use more of that
just
back.
About the numbers. It's about the fundamental idea that people should keep more of what they earn, that they should keep more of the fruits of their labor. It's their hard-earned money.
I agree.
Not the government's.
I agree with that.
And cutting the tax
Well
on the
said,
worker
Gianforte.
will allow
Well said.
Montanans to invest in their futures, their children, and their communities. It's money for food on the table, a baby's diapers, a new winter coat for a growing kid, or more breathing room in their monthly budget. And while providing permanent tax cuts, we also recognize the burden of rising property taxes on Montana homeowners and small businesses. Rising property taxes fuel the affordability crisis that's pinching homeowners across the country. We must do something about it. We must enact a homestead rate cut for Montana homeowners for their primary residence.
Wow, fourth applause line, a rate cut for primary residents. I agree with that.
It's the place they call home. This reform is estimated to lower property taxes for Montana homeowners by 15% and for small businesses by 18%. It's projected to directly reduce property taxes for more than 215,000 homeowners and more than 32,000 small businesses, as well as provide indirect relief to 130,000 renters here in Montana.
Nice, Legendary.
This is about making Montana more affordable for families. Some have asked me, why are you so focused on Montanans and their primary home? Well, I'll be frank. I don't believe, for example, a Californian who drops into Montana to ski once in a while near their mountain mansion should get a property tax cut. It's not fair.
Wow, the fifth applause line of the night going after rich out-of-staters.
Own their home, live here, and invest their lives in their community. One of my top priorities is delivering meaningful, permanent property tax relief for Montanans in 2025. No gimmicks, and not in 2026 or 2027, but meaningful, permanent relief this year. To make that...
Yeah, he wants it this year now because he's not running for re-elect in a couple of years.
To make that a reality, to deliver a permanent homestead rate cut for Montana homeowners this year, the bill needs to become law by the middle of February. Now, I know that's a tight deadline, but the Department of Revenue needs some runway to implement this rate cut for Montana homeowners in 2025. Montanans are counting on us to get this done, and we should.
Another applause line, but for the same thing, which is a rate cut for primary residences.
Now, I also know corporate lobbyists are prowling the halls here in the Capitol, trying to get carve-outs for their clients in property tax. But if we go that route, Montana...
Pretty rich for him to be talking about corporate lobbyists when he's all in on Medicaid expansion.
I believe our focus must be on Montana homeowners and not corporate interests. But here's a key question. Why does a homeowner with a $400,000 home in Missoula County pay higher taxes than a homeowner with a $400,000 home in Flathead County? Here's the answer. Because local governments set a homeowner's property taxes. And we must also encourage those same local governments to help keep property taxes as low as possible.
Wow, sixth applause line of the night is reducing,
That's the only way to make this work,
controlling local governments. Wow.
Just as property taxes are fueling the nationwide affordability crisis, so too is the rising cost of housing. In Montana, our population grew by nearly 10% between 2010 and 2020.
No, he's not a rhino. No, Gianforte is not a rhino. He's not a rhino, Panzer.
With more people moving to Montana and with not enough homes being built, the price of housing has skyrocketed, putting a key element of the American dream beyond reach for many. Facing the problem, we launched our Housing Task Force, which included legislators, stakeholders, and experts. They developed substantial recommendations, some of which we enacted together in 2023. And now, Montana leads the nation in pro-housing policy. As a result of our work in 2023, counties and cities are reworking their growth plans with a keen eye.
I don't know if we could say we're leading the nation in pro-housing policy when we still have all the pre-existing anti-housing policies. But
another element of our pro-housing reforms is delivering immediate results, the HOMES program. The Board of Investments reports that the HOMES program has led to construction of nearly 1,000 new homes in Montana.
I agree, 1927. I agree, 1927. Yep.
The money the state invests comes back to us so we can reinvest it.
That's not investing, that's spending.
Program, we should strengthen it. investing an additional $100 million in one-time only funding. By boosting the program, the increased proceeds of the fund can lead to the construction of more homes in Montana. If the fund and its proceeds were twice the size they are now, we'd have another 1,000 homes under construction right now.
I'm against this idea.
But there's more
No.
for us to do to make housing more attainable and to keep the American dream alive here in Montana. Even after our bipartisan pro-housing reforms in 2023, our housing task
Right,
force
conservative,
delivered
right.
even more recommendations just 7 months ago. I look forward to working with each of you to secure more housing solutions for Montanans. While we're making progress on making housing more attainable, we must address our future energy needs as well. A home or small business cannot thrive if its power bill is too high. Unfortunately, the affordability crisis has forced Americans to pay higher utility bills.
I agree with focusing on this. Our utilities are outrageous here in Montana.
Rise nearly 30% since President Biden took office.
Yeah, it's electricity's gotten so expensive.
Power rises, the heavy hand of the federal government has thwarted energy development. We need affordable, reliable power, and we need the federal government's support, not obstruction. We need to unleash Montana and America's all of the above energy production. I committed to President Trump that Montana stands ready to expand energy production to make America affordable again. Montanans need and deserve solutions. Just last month, I brought together consumers, energy leaders, and legislators. We discussed how Montana can unleash American-made energy to meet the growing demand in Montana and across the region. There were many good ideas, but this pressing issue requires a thorough, thoughtful approach. That's why tonight, I'm announcing that we will launch an Unleashing Energy Task Force in the coming weeks. This task force will complement the work of our energy leaders here in the legislature and build on the legislature's energy accomplishments, because we need long-term solutions to ensure we have affordable, reliable energy now and well into the future. Enacting solutions to today's affordability crisis through lower taxes, a growing housing supply, and greater energy production will help Montanans now and into the future. And we must keep an eye on the future. Our state has worked to build an education system with our children and grandchildren at the front of our minds. As we know, the cornerstone of our state's future lies in the well-being and success of our children. They're our most precious resource, and it's our duty to invest in their future. The Big Sky Scholarships program provides lower and middle-income Montana families with scholarships to access education opportunities that best meet the needs of the children.
Too many spending bills here.
I've heard from parents and kids about how much this program means to them. That's why our budget increases funding for this popular program to $6 million, giving more Montanans the chance to pursue an education that works for them.
It's just too many spending things. Like, I'm just opposed to it just on government spending. Oil, Ollie memes. What up, Ollie memes? Maha all the way. Maha, baby, Maha.
We're also expanding educational opportunities through the Digital Academy, with increased funding for STEM and career and technical education. These initiatives will prepare our students for the jobs of tomorrow right here in Montana. We also have an obligation to all students and families to ensure our schools prepare them for the future. But a bloated bureaucracy is not the solution. That does not serve our students and families well. Our focus must remain targeted.
I agree, riding fence.
Where the teachers teach and the students learn. As a son and father of teachers, I'm well aware that teaching is one of the most noble professions. For too long, though, Montana teachers, especially those just beginning their careers, have not been compensated properly for their work. Over the last 4 years, we've worked together to boost starting teacher pay by establishing the TEACH Act. Building on the success of the TEACH Act, our budget invests a historic $100 million to raise teacher pay.
Wow, easily the biggest applause line of the night is increasing teacher pay. Wow, massive, massive, massive applause line to increase teacher pay. Holy cow. I support it.
And this program and our efforts has a special focus on educators that are just starting their career. So why is this investment so important? Well, let me tell you about Alex Cameron, a young teacher from Webo. When I met her in October, she told me about herself, her background, and her love for teaching. Because of our TEACH Act, the work we did together, Alex and her husband used her higher salary to buy their first home. This is the kind of impact we're having on our educational system and on our communities when we work together. While Alex and her family could not be here with us tonight, they, as well as their friends and colleagues from Webo Public Schools, are watching from home. Let's make sure they can hear us in Webo.
Oh, there's Secretary of State Christy Jacobson. There's Clerk Bowen Greenwood. There's Attorney General Austin Knudsen. There's the Supreme Court justices.
Alex, thanks for the work you do to expand the minds of our young students. Recruiting and retaining the best teachers in our classrooms will prepare young Montanans for the future. But academic success requires students to be focused when they're in the classroom. Too often, though, the swarm of notifications and content from social media distracts them. Students in our classrooms should be focused on their teachers and not TikTok. Creating a distraction-free learning environment is crucial for student success, and cell phone-free schools are a proven, powerful solution. By eliminating this distraction during the school day, educators have seen significant improvements in student engagement, focus, and academic performance. Our budget provides $1 million of one-time funds for incentives to school districts to adopt cell phone-free policies statewide. Schools with these policies have experienced higher test scores, fewer discipline issues, and better social interactions amongst students. But don't take my word for it. I've met with school administrators, teachers, and parents. I've heard how cell phone-free policies are working in our schools. That's why I called on school superintendents and school board trustees to consider implementing cell phone-free schools. Molly Blakely.
Totally agree with that. Heck yeah.
Of the Hellgate Elementary School District in Missoula. In November, I got a letter from Molly about the district's new cell phone-free school policy. She wrote, and I quote, "By limiting cell phone use during the school day, students are more focused on their learning and present in their interactions with peers and teachers. Teachers have reported fewer classroom disruptions, and students have expressed appreciation for the opportunities to build stronger in-person connection." Tonight, we're grateful to have Molly with us. Molly, thank you for being here and for your strong leadership for your students and teachers. Molly?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Why do they need incentives? Just ban it? Yeah, that's a good point, Panzer. I think because we allow local control.
Disruptions in the classroom is one step to protecting our kids and their long-term interests. I'm proud of the work we've done together to protect our kids, our grandkids, and their future. We've responded strongly and unequivocally to the far left's extreme agenda that threatens the health, development, and well-being of Montana children. Together, we enacted a ban on boys and girls sports to preserve fairness and integrity in women's sports. Together, we've enacted a ban on exposing kids to highly sexualized public performances in their schools and libraries.
Good, good, good.
Together, we've enacted a ban on exposing kids to pornography online.
Good, 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 good.
Together, we've enacted a ban on unproven invasive medical treatments used to permanently alter kids' healthy, developing bodies.
Yeah, that's a standing O. That's a standing O for sure on that one. Yeah, see, he's no rhino. See, he's no rhino. He's no rhino by any stretch.
And now together, we've also defined an individual's sex into law, because the sex one is born with,
yeah, isn't that great,
is
Panzer?
an unchangeable biological fact. And some courts, including our own, haven't grasped that simple concept. These are all common sense laws designed to protect Montana children.
Right, Panzer, right.
Lawyers challenged them all. And our courts, well, they've sided with the far left, either tying up the laws or tossing them out. And it's no wonder. Let's revisit last year's races for Supreme Court. The ACLU out of New York City dumped more than $1 million into those races. So did the extreme left dark money groups who devise ingenious names to hide their intent. So did the trial lawyers. Their goal, to elect judges that will do their bidding. Let's face reality, folks. We already have a partisan Supreme Court in Montana. They're nonpartisan in name only. And Montanans have a right to know the values and principles of the judges they elect. Let's bring light to the darkness. That's why I'm asking you to send to my desk a bill that empowers Montana voters to know a judicial candidate's political party. This is not a new idea. Texas and 6 other states run their Supreme Court elections just like this. But friends, despite our setbacks in the courts, we must continue to honor one of our most solemn responsibilities, protecting our kids. I welcome legislation to my desk that provides privacy and security to women and girls. Because a man shouldn't be in a woman's restroom, shouldn't be in a woman's shower room, and shouldn't be housed in a woman's prison.
Agreed. Agreed. Boom. Get him, Gianforte.
Now, while we've taken steps in protecting our kids and grandkids in Montana, we must not waver. We must remain strong advocates for Montana children. And we must remain steadfast in our defense of our most vulnerable and impressionable minds. One of the least obvious but most prevalent threats to our kids and grandkids is social media. I'll be blunt about social media and its impact on our kids. It's addictive. It warps their impressionable young minds. It results in bullying.
True.
It causes kids to lose sleep. And it
Are you serious, Pro-Law? Like you're shocked, Pro-Law? Like you're taken aback? You're taken aback by it?
Social media companies are profiting off their harmful impact on our kids.
Oh, I saw that earlier, Num. I saw that. Pretty funny.
The burden is on parents, and only on parents, to try and protect their kids online. To support parents and protect kids, we should take action together, as other states have done, like Arkansas, Texas, Utah.
That's amazing, Pro-Law. That's incredible.
We
Wow.
should ensure parents can consent for their kids to create social media accounts. We should allow parents to get access to their kids' social media accounts. We should ban social media companies from collecting and selling data and personal information about kids who are on their platforms.
Amen to that.
And we should require default privacy settings for minors on social media. And lastly, we should have a curfew, a blackout on social media overnight for kids. Kids need more rest, not more reels on Instagram. They need more sleep, not more Snapchat. Finally, to support parents and protect kids, we should empower parents with a legal course of action against companies that violate these laws and harm our kids. And we should allow the state to investigate and enforce these laws. Friends, when it comes down to it, we must protect our kids from the substantial dangers of social media. And we must empower parents to do the same. A safe foundation, a safe community is the foundation of a prosperous future. That's why our budget significantly increases support for law enforcement.
That's good. That's good.
Because in Montana, we back the blue.
He hasn't really talked about the prisons yet or what he's going to do about crime in this state.
We're investing $7 million to increase pay for the men and women of the Montana Highway Patrol.
Okay, increasing pay is great, but it's not investing. That's spending. That's government spending, but that's great.
And we're ensuring that they have the tools to get the job done. They put themselves in harm's way, and they deserve to be compensated for it. We must show our law enforcement officers that we value their service and are committed to their success. Let me share a story with you about one of our law enforcement heroes. In June 2021, a state helicopter fighting the Deep Creek Canyon fire was fighting a fire in Broadwater County. It was a windy day. So windy that the DNRC helicopter was forced to make a hard landing. It landed right in front of Montana Highway Trooper Amanda Villa. Trooper Villa immediately jumped out of her patrol car, radioed for help, and then ran into the fire. In a testament of bravery, she climbed into the burning wreckage and pulled 4 people to safety. It's men and women like Trooper Villa who protect our communities, and we need to pay them what they deserve. Tonight we're honored to have Trooper Amanda Villa with us. Trooper.
Boy, she's not all that comfortable, is she? That's impressive as hell.
Trooper Villa, thank you for your service to the state of Montana. But friends, let's be clear about one thing. Our law enforcement officers who put their lives on the line every day are at the receiving end of our nation's failed border policies. Those reckless policies have brought more criminals and drugs into our country. Not just into states along the southern border, but into Montana and states across the country. Every state is now a border state. Law enforcement officers should have the resources they need to fight rising crime. We've worked alongside the Attorney General to fund more prosecutors and forensic scientists because we should hold criminals accountable and ensure that they receive justice. We need more judges to address the growing caseload, and we need more resources for the victims of crime. But we can't find and prosecute criminals if we don't have a place to put them. In fact, too many criminals who ought to be at the state prison are filling up county jails. I'm told, and this is somewhat shocking, there are thousands of unserved warrants in Montana due to a lack of space to lock up criminals. We must be able to serve these warrants and lock them up. For the safety of our communities, we must fix this. Building on the work of legislators, stakeholders, and agencies, we should expand the capacity of our state prison by 500 beds by spending $150 million of one-time only funding. And keeping an eye to the future, we should invest an additional $250 million, again of one-time only funding, to develop and execute a long-term plan to improve public safety and keep criminals off the streets.
I don't understand why. Wait, $150 million to expand the prison and like $250 million to
we should also
figure it out? I don't get that.
Corrections officers who supervise inmates and ensure order and safety in our secure facilities. That's why we invest $6.5 million for our correctional officers, providing them a pay increase, more training, and better resources.
Relax, lecture. It's only a one-time payment. Like, what the hell is that? All a one? I'm sick of the one-time stuff. It's never one time with the government.
Montana requires strong infrastructure. Our budget allocates an additional $10 million per year towards bridge repairs, with the goal of fixing 500 bridges over the next 5 years.
Panzer.
To protect our communities from potential natural disasters, we also invest $100
one time each time, right, bro?
in one-time only funding.
More one-time.
In a local disaster resiliency fund. This fund will support local and state projects that reduce or eliminate long-term risk to people and property from future disasters like aging levees and canals that might fail. We can leverage state dollars for up to a 9-to-1 federal match, maximizing the impact of this investment. We do all this while preventing ongoing general fund spending to address disaster resiliency. Let me give you an example of how this would work and make a difference.
Relax, Alex. The canals only age one at a time. It's a one-time.
There's an aging levee, a source of concern for years. With the resources of our Disaster Resiliency Fund, we can reinforce that levee, protecting homes and businesses from potential flooding. This isn't just about preventing disaster, though. It's about giving
our levees should be already built fine.
The peace of mind they deserve.
We don't need one-time funding. The levees should be built to code.
These critical investments for our future, we remain committed to fiscal responsibility. Our budget is not unlike the budgets Montana families have. They spend within their means. So do we. They spend on what they need. So do we. If they have extra money, they invest it in long-term projects like fixing a leaky roof or replacing a failing heating system or buying a new refrigerator. So do we, with our schools, roads, bridges, and correctional system. Our budget is balanced, and it keeps spending growth under inflation and maintains a strong ending fund balance to protect against economic uncertainty. We avoid cuts to essential services. Working with legislators, many of you, in 2021 and 2023, we enacted conservative budgets that delivered results, providing permanent tax relief, making smart investments, keeping spending under inflation, and producing a surplus. This budget continues that tradition of fiscal conservatism while making strategic investments in our state's future. It's about using our resources wisely to create greater opportunities.
I mean, I understand the importance of this, but like,
secure our future.
A lot of spending here.
My fellow Montanans, our budget is our path to security and prosperity. It's a reflection of our values, our priorities, and our unwavering commitment to the future of our great state. We live in an inspiring place, filled with good, hardworking people. I'm filled with great optimism for our state, our people, and our future. Our budget prioritizes our people and our communities. It prioritizes our future, the next generation of Montanans, by spurring job creation, boosting education in our classrooms, and opening the door of greater opportunity for all Montanans. Montanans keep more of what they earn. We pay law enforcement for their heroic work, and we ensure they have the tools to get the job done. We take more criminals off the streets, and we make our communities safer. We fix our infrastructure and grow Montanans' access to affordable, attainable housing. Our budget does all this while being fiscally responsible. Now, as I said on the steps of the Capitol 1 week ago, America lives here. America lives in Montana. Since our state's earliest days, people have flocked here for opportunity and our way of life. People worked the land, and they established a government to serve the people. As our founding fathers envisioned, public servants weren't professional politicians. They served to make our state a better place for the people they served and future generations. That remains a hallmark of public service in Montana. Like all of you here tonight, public servants are committed to make our state a better place for the people they serve and our future generations. Not only during this legislative session, but for years to come, I ask you to hold close the noble purpose of public service and always consider why we're here, for the people we serve and for future generations. Serving as the 25th governor of this great state is the greatest honor of my life. Like some of you here tonight, I entered public service after a career of starting businesses, creating jobs, and growing opportunities. I say all this because Washington, D.C. has largely lost the fundamental principles of public service that guided our nation's founders. Largely lost is the idea that public servants should serve the people, not themselves. Largely lost is the idea that public servants should be public servants and not professional politicians. While America lives here, while America lives in Montana, Washington, D.C. does not. There are, however, hardworking, principled policymakers, like the members of our federal delegation, who are focused on the people they serve. They understand and consider the long-term impacts of today's decisions. But there are also some in Washington, D.C. whose focus seems to be chasing the hot lights of television or likes on social media. They don't seem as interested in the long-term impact of today's decisions. For the last 4 years, Washington, D.C. has been mired in dysfunction. We've felt the failures that come from that dysfunction. Failure to restrain spending, ultimately fueling a nationwide affordability crisis. Failure to contain our national debt, ultimately leaving a monstrous tab for our kids and grandkids. And failure to secure our nation's borders, ultimately letting cartels profit from misery. Washington, D.C. is dysfunctional and failing the American people. With President Trump taking office in exactly 1 week, I'm confident that he won't tolerate dysfunction and will get our country back on the right track. But friends, while America lives here, Washington, D.C. and its dysfunction do not. We owe it to the people of Montana to keep it that way. We owe it to the people of Montana to keep front of mind how our decisions today will impact our kids and grandkids. We owe it to the people of Montana to keep our focus on them, our communities, and future generations. We owe it to the people of Montana to keep the American dream alive and within reach for all Montanans. When we maintain, you can applaud for the American dream. When we maintain that kind of focus, Montanans find greater opportunities and they thrive. Last summer, I stopped by a new growing business in Sweetgrass County. I met with Wes Toscano and his team. I learned about their manufacturing business, including how they support young apprentices and their employees. And that's where I met Taylor Kober. Taylor was born, raised, and lives in Big Timber. Her father's worked at the mine for 26 years, and her mother works at the local school. Taylor had been working 2 jobs as a bartender and a bank teller. And when Wes provided her an opportunity at his growing company, she's now a 3D printing engineer. In 2023, Taylor was able to buy her first home at 22 years old. She continues to grow in her role and is further planting roots in her community. Thanks to employers like Wes and his business partner, Julie, Montanans have access to more opportunities here than ever before. This is what's possible when government stays out of the way. Workers and businesses thrive. Tonight, Taylor, Julie, Wes, and their family is with us. Please join me in showing our appreciation. Taylor, Julie, Wes, and the countless other Montanans who I meet are proof that our state remains strong. And that's because we've worked together for the people that we serve. I look forward to continuing that work with you during the 2025 session and beyond, to continue our shared success, to continue delivering results for the people of Montana. Working together, we can ensure the state of our state remains strong, not just today, but well into the future.
Oh, man.
And as we move forward on this path to security and prosperity, let us remember that America truly lives in Montana. It lives in our commitment to our children. It lives in our support for our communities. It lives in our dedication to creating greater opportunities for all Montanans. With what we've been able to achieve together so far, Montana can and should be a model for our sometimes fractured nation. Together, we will continue to make Montana a shining example of what can be achieved when, guided by our faith and commitment to serving Montanans, we put our families, our communities, and our way of life first. We will show the nation that America, the ideal of America, and the American dream is alive and well, right here in the last best place. May God bless you. God bless our United States in this great state of Montana.
Pretty decent.
We've been
Pretty
listening
decent
to
speech.
Governor Greg Gianforte deliver his third.
Why do speechwriters do this to us? Oh, I know. I know, right?
Leaving the chamber, Gianforte covering a wide range of priorities for his administration. He started out by talking about reducing the cost of living and proposing what he billed as the largest income tax cut in state history, as well as more permanent property tax relief. And Lee Banville joining us once again, and the biggest applause line, one of them, had to be the education and raising teacher pay. That was another big item there. A lot of reaction from defining gender and the policies that were around that.
Right.
Stricter policies around kids' access to social media. That also drew quite a bit of reaction there as well, including additional funding for law enforcement, infrastructure, those kinds of things. So a lot there, as you said, usually a lot of lists of things that
pretty big list,
yes, aspirational as the upcoming session happens there. So what's your initial take there as you listen to Governor Gianforte?
Well, I do think there was a sort of, if there was a central theme, it was affordability, right? And he took several different sort of whacks at the apple. I mean, it was reducing income taxes, addressing property taxes, making housing more affordable, but also bringing down energy costs and like thinking about different ways in which, you know, our costs have increased over these last several years. And so, you know, he definitely had that as a central theme, you know, and there was also a sort of kind of future focused look at children broadly. So everything from some of the more controversial issues or topics like the LGBTQ sort of issues, but also the more sort of like things that people can unify around, such as
how is that controversial or
sort of early teacher pay, which Montana has addressed a lot, but still comes down quite low on the list when it is the starting pay of a teacher. And so, you know, you definitely saw a couple of those key themes sort of hit multiple times in multiple ways.
We want to remind our viewers and listeners that we will also have the Democrats' response to Governor Gianforte's address. That's going to be coming up in just a few minutes, again from the Capitol in the Senate chamber. That's Senate Minority Whip Shane Morageau from Missoula. The Democrat from Missoula, he'll be delivering that here in just a few minutes. In the meantime, we're going to dig deeper now into the speech. We talked about that long list of things that were in there. Was there something notable that was not in there?
Yeah, I did notice. So one of the biggest questions the legislature has to answer is, do we continue this expanded Medicaid program that covers, you know, tens of thousands of Montanans? It's been seen as fairly successful, but also at times controversial. There's been a lot of talks about sort of beefing up
guitar
work
player
requirements and other things. Not a mention, right? So there was nothing about really health care or specifically Medicaid expansion, which kind of surprises me because it is a thing that is taking up a lot of time and air in Helena these first couple weeks of the legislatures as they debate how they're going to tackle that issue.
Well, we'll get now into the details of it. For those of you just joining us, we'll get a chance to hear some clips now from what the governor was hitting on, some of the major topics. And obviously one of the big ones was property tax relief.
Right.
And trying to find something that was a little bit more permanent. They went the rebate route the last time around, couldn't really coalesce around an idea of how to do that. Now he's been talking more about the homestead rate cut.
Right.
And earlier in the speech, this is what Governor Gianforte
mine's a
had to
homestead,
say
so
about
that'd be
property tax
sweet.
relief.
Rising property taxes fuel the affordability crisis that's pinching homeowners across the country. We must do something about it. We must enact a homestead rate cut for Montana homeowners for their primary residence. It's the place they call home. This reform is estimated to lower property taxes for Montana homeowners by 15%.
Well, so what defines a homestead, Panzer? In Montana, it's I think it basically is either I don't know for sure, but I think it's basically your primary residence. I don't know. That's a good question. Let me just see if I can find it really quick.
130,000 renters here in Montana.
to all of that, and there are critics of that plan, of course, of what will that do in terms of local budgets if you go that route. I mean, it's
okay. So this says a homestead is the house a person lives in and the land on which it stands. The home must be a person's primary residence to be eligible of a homestead. A mobile home or manufactured home is also eligible for a homestead declaration. So yeah, it's really it's basically any house you live in that you own can be your homestead. It's literally that broad. And so my house, I've got, when I closed on it, my title company just sort of like on its own, just like as a matter of course, gave me a homestead declaration because they knew I was a first time buyer and I was going to live there. And they're like, oh, okay. And then that form was there for me. So
this could be a thing that people would see, much more immediate relief with. But you're right.
So I've got a declaration of homestead recorded on this property. So if you actually looked up, if you went to my county clerk and recorder and you walked down to the county clerk and recorder's office and pulled up all the public records on my house, you'd find my mortgage and my deed and my declaration of homestead, me declaring like this is my homestead. And so this specific policy proposal to cut taxes for homesteads would be a direct benefit to me. So I think it's awesome. Obviously, it's a great tax cut.
Things like transportation systems and things like that. And one of the things that the governor seems to be saying is like we need to kind of rein in some of that too, because the state can only do so much, which is true. Property taxes are very much a local issue oftentimes.
But it's about local people telling us to talk to the state officials and state officials telling us to talk to the local people, but we'll see if this gains any traction then in the legislature for that. Now, another topic that was knocked about, of course, is this growing tension between the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. I should put legislative and executive together against the judicial branch. There's been growing concern about that. And that kind of bubbled up in the speech as well. It got attached to some of the...
Oh, well, that's the old amount. That's the old amount, Panzer, but that's the amount that's exempt from creditors. So the whole point of the homestead declaration and the homestead is that it's protected from creditors. So if you owe somebody money and you lose a court case or something and you owe somebody a bunch of money, like they can go after a lot of your assets, but some assets they can't go after. They can't go after your homestead. They can't go after your retirement accounts. They can't go after certain things like that. And so the amount, but it's not unlimited. Some states have unlimited homesteads. Like Florida has an unlimited homestead for certain types of properties, which is crazy. Other states have really tiny homestead exemptions, like 10 grand. In Montana, ours is up to like almost 400 grand at this point, I think, because we've got like escalators in it every year. It goes up type of thing.
We have a partisan Supreme Court in Montana. They're nonpartisan in name only.
Quite a bit in the last two election cycles,
yes,
2022 and 2024, and who was backing whom and how all that worked out. Do you think that's going forward? Because I think it was noted later that there are 7 states that are already doing this.
Right, yeah, states. I mean, he mentioned Texas, but also, states like Pennsylvania, North Carolina. It's not unheard of. I mean, I think that what's interesting is when the Constitutional Convention was convened in 1972, they very much said that they wanted these positions to be nonpartisan, that they felt very strongly at that time that nonpartisan elections created more independence among the judiciary. This has been churning for so long, and I think the tensions have been so increased that, I mean, it's clear that the legislature is going to try to do something. I think one of the things that's interesting is oftentimes when partisan politics have cropped up in these races. So, for example, in 2022, with the Supreme Court race, the governor and the senator sort of endorsed a candidate right away, and that didn't seem to do anything. So, like, there is this sort of like, do Montanans really worry about this? Because if they wanted to know who the Republicans were backing in that race in 22, it was very easy to find it out. And still that person lost in a state that Republicans do quite well in. And so I guess the issue is, I think that right now the legislature and the executive see the judiciary as a stumbling block to them implementing the policies they want. And they tried to change the Constitution 2 years ago, and none of their constitutional amendments got to the voters. And so this time they're going to try to look at, okay, can we reshape the judiciary to perhaps make it less of a stumbling block for us implementing the policies we think Montanans need?
As we mentioned, the Democrats' response is coming up here in just a moment as Shane Morjo will be delivering that, the Senate Minority Whip from Missoula, as they will respond to Governor Gianforte's address. And quickly, what do you expect to hear from the Democrats?
I mean, I think you'll hear some of the same things. I think there will be a focus on property taxes and housing and affordability, but I think you'll hear a different way of tackling the issue. And I think it'll be interesting to see, do they bring up things like healthcare access or rural hospital health or things like that. But, that's why we'll have to wait and see. And then I'll tell you what I think later, maybe.
All right, we're going to check on them right now. We're going to go to Helena, and now we're over in the Senate chamber for tonight's Democrats' response to Governor Gianforte's address earlier tonight. And again, it's Senate Minority Whip Shane Morjo, Democrat representing Missoula. He is on the rostrum there and prepared to deliver remarks. Let's listen in.
All right. Good evening, everyone. It's an honor to be here with you all tonight. I'm Senator Shane Morjo. I'm a member of the Salish and Kootenai tribes. I grew up in Ronan, and I'm a lifelong Montanan. But most importantly, I'm the father of my beautiful 2-year-old daughter, Juniper Rose. And as we gather to begin this legislative session, I want to share Democrats' vision for putting Montanans first and getting our state back on track. Our mission is clear: to bring back freedom, fairness, and affordability to every person, family, and business in Montana. Montana has been under Republican leadership for decades, and our lives have only gotten harder. Republicans have been raising property taxes, offering tax cuts for big corporations, and taking away our freedoms. Thanks to Montana voters, we now have a more balanced legislature with Democrats gaining seats in both houses. We have 13 Native Americans as part of the Montana American Indian Caucus who are focused on solutions such as child welfare and fully funding public schools and school food programs. We know that what's good for Montana and for Indian country is good for all of Montana. We expect that better representation will result in better government, and we are ready to work together on bipartisan solutions and put Montanans first. Democrats will be working to put free back into freedom by standing up for your constitutional rights and your individual freedoms. And freedom is more than just a word. It's the foundation of our great state. Democrats have and always will fight for the constitutional rights of all Montanans. Democrats will keep politicians out of your bedroom and out of your doctor's office. We will also fight to keep politics out of the courts. The far-right Republican attack against the court, as you just heard tonight, amounts to no more than putting their own political agenda in front of the rights of freedom of speech, government transparency, religious freedom, and privacy of all Montanans. We know that Montanans want courts to be fair and impartial, and Democrats will put your rights first. Democrats will be working hard to make Montana fair by bringing tax and renewing Medicaid. We'll be bringing tax relief and renewing Medicaid. Democrats have been sounding the alarm on the need for tax reform to prevent the affordability problems we are seeing today. Democrats will make sure that lower and middle class Montanans get the relief they deserve. We want a fair tax system where corporations pay their fair share and families, businesses, and communities can thrive in Montana.
Paul Fielder, Senator Mark Mullen, I should have mentioned, Representative Paul Fielder, Representative Gene Gillette, Caleb Thornton, Jed Nico, Representative Jed Nico from over in the Belgrade area, and Braxton Mitchell from up in the Flatdale, and of course Senator Taylor. So we've got our team put together for the session and the year ahead. One of the things that in a few days ago leading up to tonight, we were glad to hear the governor embrace DOGE, which is President Trump's initiative in Washington, D.C. to finally bring some financial accountability back to Washington, D.C. and to shrink the size of the federal government. We're disappointed at this point, I guess, regarding our own budget and the direction of the Montana state government here, because we think that our direction isn't shrinking government, we're continuing to grow government at too fast of a pace. So that's one of the things that we have to work on in this session. Our top legislative priorities looking forward. Top one is reforming the judicial system. I understand the governor talked fairly extensively on that this evening, and we are excited that the interim Senate Committee on Judicial Reform came up with some tremendous bills that we're going to support and push going forward. We think there are a lot of good ideas, and we have been continually disappointed as some of our district judges and the Supreme Court continues to pretend they're legislators and create legislation and create policy rather than just judge.
Bro, I'm telling you, Pro-Law. It's like, this is the kind of stuff that is going on. It's like, and then look at the quality of my stream. Look at the audio video quality of my stream. I mean, it's just unbelievable that these are like our political leaders with this kind of quality of like live stream.
Bill, I think is a high priority.
It's like, dude, at least turn your camera and stream it the right way. If you're just gonna do phone streaming.
Restrooms, a private and safe environment, especially for girls and women, public bathrooms. So that's a bill that we're excited to get on the floor and get to the governor. Another top priority that we're looking at is safeguarding elections. There's a number of bills already that have been introduced and are going to be introduced, and we think we can continue to make Montana elections more secure and help the public to be more confident that elections are done in a timely manner. Results, we don't have to wait days and days and days to listen to who's going to win or lose some of these races. So we're looking forward to helping safeguard that. In fact, in the Constitution, Montana Constitution, it clearly states that that's the responsibility of the legislature, and we intend to continue to push and take responsibility for that and claim that as our own. Another high priority is stopping the Obama Medicaid expansion. That's part of the whole concept of individual accountability and freedom. And actually, at this time, I'd like to just take a moment and let Representative Gillette touch on that issue as well.
I'll just hold it if that seems okay to you. Let me know if you can't hear me. The Montana Freedom Caucus believes that those who can work should work. To that extent, the current Medicaid expansion framework has failed Montana taxpayers and, most importantly, the people who the program purports to help. At the top of our priority list is advancing policy which promotes opportunity and upward social mobility. We will do this by implementing long overdue reforms in Medicaid, social support programs such as food stamps and TANF, and promoting stable two-parent households. The Montana Freedom Caucus welcomes partnerships within the Republican caucus, across the aisle, and in the governor's office to help achieve this lofty goal, which is achievable.
Just kidding. When I can afford to, when I pay off my law school student loans, I'll think about it.
Thank you, Representative Gillette. Another thing that is a focus of the Freedom Caucus, and that hasn't changed from last session, and I guess it doesn't matter whether we're on the national level or the state level, and that's cutting the state budget.
Oh, I do. Yeah, good point. Like, Alter, good point. I have run for office. I've run for precinct committee man. I'm precinct committee man. I'm precinct captain for my precinct for the Republican Party, which is an actual elected position. I could show you my certificate of election, actually, if you wanted to see it. Maybe I could find it.
When we collect more dollars,
I'll try to find it and maybe show you guys next stream or something.
I believe they need to go back to the taxpayers.
I want to listen to this, though.
And start anew in this biennium, set a new budget, finance it accordingly. Another issue that we had to deal with last session, but it'll be back before us again, is banning centralized bank digital currencies so that we continue to have a free currency that isn't controlled by the federal government or an outside banking institution. Another thing is environmental social governance that kind of goes along with that has an impact on our financial markets and our ability to borrow money, finance things, and to have
Right, pro-law, right.
Another high priority that affects all Montanans is property taxes. And our focus, we believe, should be more on reforming property taxes, reducing that burden, and that's a heavier burden on the average Montanan, especially Montanans that have been here for a long time, own their homes for a long time, and are probably living on a fixed income, retired people. Far more critical to them than reducing an income tax rate. Although we support income tax rate reduction too, but we have to...
I have been pro-law. Absolutely mind-blowing pro-law. I have a hard time even grasping it, but yeah.
Income is, or revenue is, but I think our primary focus should be on easing the burden of property taxes on our citizens. Of course, one thing you hear a lot about, whether it be on the federal level or state level,
It's great DEI fire in 2025. I like it. It's good.
And critical race theory, and that seems to have permeated, whether it be our institutions, our corporations, or our government, our schools, and that's one thing that I hope we can help.
I'll help you, pro-law. Watch this. Watch this.
Whether it be the Republican Party, hopefully not exclusively. Hopefully that's a bipartisan thing that we can all agree on. Another issue that'll come back before us that some people got beat up on after last session was a resolution we call Defending the Guard. And that says nothing else but making sure our National Guard isn't sent all over the world to fight in fights that haven't been declared wars. So we want that to follow the Constitution. If there's a resolution of war, then the Guard can be used. Otherwise, they stay at home. A real important value of the Freedom Caucus and the Republican Party is expanding protections on life, and we're going to use every tool that we can find in the upcoming session to try and guarantee life. Lastly, of our priorities that we're going to talk about tonight is illegal immigration. And that's a serious issue. We're excited about the new president, the new administration coming in that hopefully will turn the tide on that.
Thank you, just kidding.
Montana have been extreme already, especially I think on our Indian reservations. It's been a tremendous liability with increased drug trafficking, human trafficking, and we need to do our best to help rein in that problem. So we're looking forward to trying to push these priorities and promote freedom for all Montanans. And with that, if there's any questions.
One for Representative Gillette. What do you make of Governor Gianforte not mentioning Medicaid expansion in the speech tonight?
Good one. Good one. Good one.
I mean, I couldn't comment on Governor Gianforte. I mean, if he chooses not to talk about it or think about it, that's his choice. We certainly have our perspective on how we'd like to move forward with that.
Does it seem promising that he didn't make an overt call to the body to pass Medicaid expansion again?
Yeah, I don't have any comment on what his thinking is or what that was about.
Wow, very political response.
I'm sorry, I'm on the floor. I'm sitting as close as possible. This might be a question for Senator Clem or Senator Noland, but I'm thinking about the faction we saw form last week in the Senate. I'm curious as you guys think about how to pass the priorities you want to pass or block the priorities you want to pass. Who can you align with? Do you see opportunities for creating a bigger faction? What do you think?
Last week was a big mix-up. There was a lot of questions asked, a lot of negotiation that went on last week, and we really didn't come to any resolution. So as far as trying to figure out exactly how we're going to move forward, it's going to be a challenge for sure. So we tried to negotiate in good faith. There's a lot of differences between us, but that vote that happened last week was mainly on procedure, and so it's really tough to say that that happened for the citizens of Montana. That basically happened in spite of the citizens of Montana. What happened there? 9 Republicans sided with the Democrats and gave control to the Democrats in the Senate, and that's not what Montanans voted for in November. So we're going to try and make the best of it. We're going to try and have some good things happen this session, but it's definitely more difficult.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you help me understand what the divisions are that are deep enough between your caucus and the governor's agenda? Because from the outside right now, it sounds like you're really aligned on a lot, like abortion and DEI and property taxes and freedom. You want a smaller budget, but what else?
Sure. I think that's a good question, because what I've told a lot of people, it's not just the governor, but what I've told a lot of people, even before I was elected, when I first ran, this will be my third session now, is it's easy for Republicans to be socially conservative. I mean, we typically all unite on that. But what's difficult is when it comes to being fiscally conservative. It seems like a lot of us lose our focus when we're not pulling the money out of our own pockets. And last session, I sit on the Appropriations Committee, and last session, I would say that 90% of the people that came and testified before our Appropriations Committee started off with a comment something like this: we have a huge surplus, and so I've got a way to spend it, is what it went on to be. And so oftentimes that's what that's what creates more challenges than when it's tight. You know, it's a perception of people that there is prosperity, and we forget that the state doesn't have a nickel that didn't come out of a citizen's pocket. So the state doesn't have money, and when we are fortunate enough to collect more revenue than what we budgeted for, we think that money should go back to the citizens. Simple as that.
Boom, boom, boom! Yes! Let's go!
I guess I could back up a little bit to the biennium that just closed at the end of June. And for that biennium, we collected about $4 billion more than what we planned. And we made a lot of efforts during the last session to rebate and return a lot of that money, and ultimately less than $700 million went back to the taxpayers, and the state kept the balance, and it didn't spend it all. There were a lot of programs that there was delayed maintenance, you could say. Prisons got allocated a couple $100 million. Mental health. We tried to reinvigorate the mental health system that was basically decimated in the 16 years prior to this administration. The local services disappeared, and that network, there's been a lot of work done to try and rebuild or at least recreate that. Representative Bob Keenan, one of our members, actually a few caucus members, has devoted a tremendous amount of time to trying to help rebuild that with partners across the state. So there's a lot of work that's been done on it, a lot of work to do. So I'm not going to go so far as to say that all that overcollection was squandered, because it certainly wasn't. There's a lot of needs, but I guess our feelings are that the bulk of that should go back to people, and we need to identify needs when needs are there and budget for it accordingly. So that we think a more proper way to do that. Questions?
Is there any line item in the governor's budget for spending that you do support? Is there any piece of that you can get behind?
Well, I think we support most of the things in the budget. It's just a matter of amounts, and I guess I'm probably not prepared to go through and say which ones exactly we don't support, but typically I would say things when the state government, whether it's state government or federal government, gets involved in things like housing and building things that the private sector should do. It's tempting for people to want that, want free money, but almost always it costs twice as much or 3 times as much when there's a government program involved. And I farm. I'm an agriculture, have been my whole life, and I've seen that over and over and over in agriculture. The government programs inflate the cost. Someone always figures out a way to take advantage of it. And typically, just because of requirements tied up in programs, things come with them, strings that are attached, it just balloons the cost. All these water projects across the state, because of the redundancy that the federal government requires, drives up the cost by at least double. So that's, I guess, does that explain it? Question?
You mentioned that Medicaid in its current form isn't really tracking with kind of y'all's vision of the program. Are you able to share a little bit about what it is that you do envision for a proposal coming from members of the caucus and kind of what you hope to see move through the legislature?
Carl or Jim, you want to collaborate at all? They're more our experts on that.
I've already gone.
Don't everybody rush forward.
There's a number of different proposals for options in the Medicaid expansion program. That, as you know, it sunsets this year. That of course is one option, that we just completely don't re-up it. Another option is that we would have kind of a soft unwind. That proposal says that people who are on it, we just don't take any new participants. People that are on it would stay on it and eventually would come on.
I like that idea. That's a good idea.
Qualified.
That's a good idea.
There's components where we're looking more towards more work requirements, more requirements.
That's also a good
You
idea.
have to remember that this is a Medicaid expansion is for working age single adults without kids, not disabled, that don't work, that we're giving free health care to. So it's not the extremely poor, it's not pregnant women, it's not single parents with kids. This is working age single adults. And so
Able-bodied working age single adults.
Frankly, if they're working, they aren't going to qualify under the wage limits. So let's get Montanans back to work. Employers need employees, so let's get these potential employees back to work for Montanans to. It'll serve us all better.
Amen.
If people are working and earning a living wage and making a go of it.
Can I ask a quick follow-up?
Sure.
Are you able to think about or forecast at all kind of what the appetite might be for members outside of the caucus for any number of the options that you mentioned?
Well, we'll find out when we vote, won't we?
Fair enough.
Can you point to property tax proposals from the governor's task force that the caucus gets behind?
You know, I wouldn't comment on them specifically, I guess, right now, but actually Senator Glenn has a proposal that I think is an exciting one, and rather than me talk about it, I'll just hand it back over to Carl to read it again.
But it's separate from...
It is separate. So this is a property tax credit that would show up on permanent residences. It would show up as a specific line item right on your property taxes. The first projected, I just signed off on the fiscal note today. The first projected credit is $436 a year. And so what funds that is bed tax. So it's tourism dollars that we're going to turn back into property tax credits, and that benefits.
That's huge. That's huge.
Montana. We have tourists that are coming in using all of the
all of the things that your property taxes pay for. Your property taxes pay for all local stuff, the fire, your sheriff, your roads, all that kind of stuff is paid by local property taxes, and tourists get to come in and use it for free. This takes some of that money that those tourists are bringing to Montana, and it puts it back into the pockets of Montanans who are footing that whole bill. I think it's a great plan. We'll see. I think we have a lot of support for it, and we'll try and get some relief for property taxes for Montanans.
Senator Flynn, if that proposal doesn't pass, would you support the governor's homestead exemption?
The homestead exemption can stand on its own. I mean, let's pass them both. How about that?
So in addition?
Sure. Why not?
I have just one.
Yeah, just hang on just a second here. I'm going to bring Representative Hinkle forward. Caleb here, he'd like to touch a little bit on the Defend the Guard item that I talked about earlier.
Thank you. I'll be brief, but I don't think anybody here should underestimate this topic. This is really a topic that separates the men from the boys here in the legislature. Essentially, Defend the Guard is simply constitutionally that we shall not deploy our Guard troops in any war zone and or combat zone without congressional approval, a congressional declaration of war. We have not had one of these since World War II. And why I say this separates the men from the boys in this chamber is it really separates the Republicans from the Democrats, from the governor's office to the constitutionalists. And the reason that the Montana Freedom Caucus took up legislation like this is because they are some of the greatest patriots I have ever met in my life, are right behind me right now. And so it's a big piece of legislation. It is carried by Representative Lee Deming. I suggest you all look into it further. Thank you.
Oh, I know, Slick. I know, Slick. Totally. Totally.
My last question. It had me thinking about when we talk about federal programs that require X, Y, and Z for certain outcomes they're hoping for, wanting to see less of that, wanting to see less of those requirements. And then thinking about the bathroom bill being a top priority this session, I wonder if you guys have discussed or are concerned at all about what it means to have an overarching state policy for these local county and local government buildings, and whether that'll be more expensive for them and what that means.
Yeah, I don't personally think it'll be that big of a deal to implement overall. I mean, most facilities that are right now are designed to be exclusively men or exclusively women. They'll just continue to be that way. And the occasional issue that comes along that maybe the wrong person wandering in that, I think can be handled locally pretty easy and just direct people in the right way. I don't think it's a big, difficult issue to implement. And unfortunately, it's unfortunate we even have to address it, but that's the day and age we're in. Other questions? Otherwise, we appreciate you being here.
Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Oh man. All right, guys, I gotta call it. I'm wiped out.